nonprofit volunteers be managed like your staff or like your donors? This is a question I've thought a lot about, and I've had a lot of people ask me about, who owns the volunteers? Are they their own thing? Are they a subset of donors? Or are they a subset of your staff? So which is it? And knowing the answer to this question, especially the way we're going to answer it today, is really hopefully going to change the way you approach communication with your volunteers, your donors, and your staff. So let's dive in. Are your volunteers a type of staff member? I'd love to see in the chat, for those of you who are here live, do you feel this is true? Even if you feel something else is true, give me a yes or a one if you feel like your volunteers are kind of like a special type of staff member. I'm getting some yeses. Yeah, absolutely, right? They're doing the work of your organization. They're just not getting paid for it. And that's very similar to a staff member. They need to follow the same kinds of rules and regulations as your staff do, sometimes even more. And they're working to deliver your mission in one way or the others. I got a maybe like an intern, yeah. Right? So they don't necessarily have as much responsibility. Maybe they're not quite as accountable because they're not getting paid, right? They don't have quite as much skin in the game as a staff member, as someone who's getting paid. Well, let's talk about your volunteers as donors. Are they a type of donor? I mean, they're giving their time for free, and if time is worth money, that's kind of like giving money even. So I'd love to see in the chat, give me, a yes or a donor or a two if you feel like your volunteers are a type of donor. Yeah, I'm seeing some yeses. Any no's? Give me a no if you think, I got a yes, definitely donors, right? They are giving to you, and that's really important, and you do need to steward them like donors. So how do we answer this question? Clearly, they're both staff or donors. And I'm sure there's lots of ways to answer this question, but here's how I'm going to answer it. And in order to answer this well, we need to kind of define what we mean by volunteer. And we're probably all on the same page, but by volunteer, I mean a person who is giving their time for free, doing work for your organization. I think we're all on the same page about that because, I actually went to pull a quote from the dictionary, and there are a lot of other definitions of volunteer. That's usually what we're talking about right here. So anybody who's working, doing a job for your nonprofit without getting paid for it is a volunteer. Let's take a look at those staff members. Now, I found this really great chart. I added the top line because it had a reference to the numbers here. This is a comparison of roles in nonprofits and their pay compared to their pay equivalent titles in for-profits. And the number that you're seeing is the percentage pay cut that a person in that role essentially is taking by choosing to work in a nonprofit instead of a for-profit. So for my executive directors out there, you're taking roughly a 40% pay cut to work at a nonprofit. That's pretty big. Marketing managers, if we have any marketing manager level people, development directors would be really similar level to that. We don't have development directors with the same title in for-profits, which is probably why it's not here. You're taking about almost an 18% pay cut just to be able to do the good work that you do at a nonprofit. Now, interestingly, down at like the graphic designer, administrative assistant, you're only taking a very small pay cut. But a lot of these are, pushing 10%. And the higher you go, the bigger your pay cut. So I would argue, and you can feel free to guess in the chat if you want, that in many ways, your staff, your paid staff, are also one of your biggest donor segments, especially at the higher level. They are foregoing 17% of their salary. So if you want to take, if we take like marketing manager, let's say in a for-profit is making $80,000 a year, and then we times it by 17%, which is the same as 0.17. I'll put in the 8.178. That means they are giving $14,240 in volunteer time or in kind to your organization every year. I encourage you after this, take out your calculator, take out what you would be making if you were at a for-profit, or take what you are making. And if you're good at math, you can do the switcheroony. If not, we can get on a call and talk about it, how to calculate how much you're essentially giving as a staff member. Are you with me here? So your staff members are also your volunteers. And so I think the secret to answering this question about who manages our volunteers, your donors, or are they your staff, is that in the end, it doesn't matter which way you answer it, because your staff, your employees, are also your donors. And we need to be stewarding our volunteers, and we need to be stewarding our staff like donors. So your volunteers and your staff are your donors. I'll let that sink in for a moment. If you are going, oh my God, this is so different, we've never been treating our staff like donors, I encourage you to hop on a free consultation call with me and we can talk about next steps. You can just go to pivotground.com/apply. Otherwise, if you're watching the recording, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel and stay tuned.